you really want to be careful about making sure that you are making a checklist maybe of all of the due dates for every different internship, especially if you're applying to some programs that don't have the regular DICAS due date. And then some local coordinated programs are listed here. These are some that are in California, even Fresno State there. And then in the Greater Los Angeles VA internship, they have some options. It's not like a truly coordinated program at this time, but it may at some point become a coordinated program. Okay, and then Loma Linda does not go through DICAS, so you have to look at their application separately. So you want to look at their guidelines separately. For the distance internships, again, this allows you to stay in one location while being an intern technically in another place. This also means that if you wanted, if you were going to apply to one of these distance internships and you were going to do a lot of your rotations in California because you live here, but you have a friend or a family member who lives in another state and you were able to go there to do a rotation, you could possibly do that as well. So it sometimes allows for a lot of flexibility. Sometimes interns can do these part-time, not always, but for students who need more flexibility, they need to be able to do internship hours only, 3 days a week because they're working, or they need to be able to take time off in the summer because they have children or something. Sometimes the distance internships allow for more flexibility in that regard. They also often will allow you to have a little bit more flexibility if you have a specialty rotation that you'd like to do. Sometimes you can say, I'm really interested in disordered eating and you don't have a rotation in that. If I could find a preceptor, could I do 2 weeks? And sometimes they're able to accommodate that in a way that traditional internships aren't, because it's kind of more rigid. But some distance internship programs are not accepted in all states. We have a lot of internships that are distance internships that have rotation sites in Southern California. But you do want to reach out to a distance internship and make sure that they're able to operate in California, because sometimes they will not have contracts in California. And then the last type of internship we're focusing on today is the ISB internship. Okay, this is open to people with a doctoral degree. And if that's not you, then really who it's open to, and the most people who apply are going to be someone who's applied to internships through DICAS, but got a non-match. So if you apply in fall and you don't match, then in spring you can automatically apply to an ISB if you want. Or in spring, if you open your document on match day and you get a non-match, you can apply through second round, or you can apply to an ISB program. You're automatically eligible. But if you match an internship and you decline that match for any reason, even a really good reason, then you are no longer eligible for an ISB. So you have to be really careful. This isn't for people who decide they don't want to go to an internship they matched. This is for people who have not matched an internship. You want to be really careful because each ISB is going to have different requirements. They're going to be really similar in terms of the application. They're probably going to go through DICAS. They may, though, need you to have some preceptors found, or they want you to at least try. They may have you write something in your, rewrite a personal statement. So you really want to look at every ISB that you are considering and make sure you look at their specific requirements for matching, and if that's through DICAS or not. Okay. I don't hear you.
Yeah, so I just want to add that ISP, as it says, that it's an individualized supervised practice the pathways. So it's a very, very individual case. So that goes that if you kind of like going into that route, that it will be case by case.
Right. And so just a couple of local programs, we have Cal State San Bernardino, Cal State Long Beach, and Pepperdine all have ISB programs. And Pepperdine's program really operates more like a traditional program. Once you get accepted, they set up all your rotations for you. Whereas Long Beach, when you get accepted there, they want you to find as many rotations as possible, but they have some rotation sites that people can use if they're not able to find a rotation or two. So it's kind of a hybrid model. So like Dr. S said, it being highly individualized is absolutely the truth. And there's a lot of flexibility with what I said earlier. Again, if you are really interested in community nutrition and you want to work at WIC for only a few weeks, but then you want to try to work with children in a different program, it'll be possible. Okay. We're going to go more through the actual timeline, but ultimately applying for your internship, the DICUS really opens on December 1st for spring matching. It's actually technically open now and you can start entering information, but you can't request anything through the system right now. So you're not able to request letters of recommendation. I don't think you can do certain items, but you can add your classes, start adding your personal information and things like that in there. The overall kind of look of the application is that it's going to ask you personal and background information about yourself. You do have to have a D&D digital account, so it's going to ask you for that information. And then it's going to ask you about your education, if there's any specific program requirements there. And then you have to make designations. And we'll go through some of the really important parts of the application in the next few slides. So where do you start? If you're logged in now and you haven't really started looking yet and you're not sure what to do, whether you're applying in spring or after, you want to start making a list of internships based on your particular desires. What do you want to get out of the internship and what are your qualifications? So a good place to start is this link at the top. This is our accredited programs directory. And in this Eat Right accredited programs directory, you can select a state, you can select dietetic internship, and you can check, do they have a master's? Do they have an option for a master's? Is it a distance program, right? Now, if you're choosing distance program, you don't want to choose the state of California. You want to leave that blank so you can see all of the distance programs available throughout the US. But this is a good place to start. Then you can go directly to those program websites and collect more information. Also, if you're a Cal Poly student, we have the applicant guide to supervised practice that provides additional information. And it's either available on the dietetics Canvas page, or you can email me if you're having trouble locating it. For students who are non-Cal Poly students, you want to reach out to your DPD director and see if your program has this list available for you. Some of the things you might consider when you're looking at internships is the location. Okay, if you can't move, then you need to find a program that's, within your reasonable driving distance of your home, or a distance internship where you can stay in your area and set up rotation sites. Do they offer a part-time option if that's necessary for you? The concentration or specialty is really going away, but when you look at their rotations, you can sometimes tell what their concentration is. If they have a lot more clinical than anything else, they really focus on clinical, or if they have a lot more food service than anything else, then they really are focusing on food service. And you might want to take that into consideration. You also want to think about, what are your ultimate goals? If you believe that you'd really like to work with children and women, pregnant women, then you may not be as excited about working at the VA because that's not their population, right? And so you just want to also be careful of those types of questions for yourself, what your ultimate goals are. And then you want to do things like, do they have a minimum GPA? Do I have that minimum GPA? What's the length of the program? And then often you can find out how many applications they receive versus how many they accept. And if a program, accepts 12 interns and they get 400 applications, that's a pretty low acceptance rate. And so you just want to make sure that you're a really good candidate for that program if that's going to be your top choice, right? But if that program, that accepts only like 1 out of every 20 applicants has a 3.0 minimum GPA and you don't have that, then you might not be a great fit for that program. Okay. If you have not yet, you can go ahead and create a DICUS account. If you're applying after fall of 2022, I would say that you should wait, because after the fall 2022 cycle, they're doing a lot of changes to DICUS. And so you'd want to make a new account when the new platform opens. But anyone who's going to apply in the year of 2022, you can go ahead and make your DICUS account. You also want to start requesting your official transcripts, but we're going to talk specifically about that later. You'll upload your DPD information, your coursework, your personal statement, your work experience and volunteer experience, your resume. So all of these are the required parts. The great thing, if you haven't logged into DICUS before, it's pretty straightforward. There are steps and they turn green, and I'll show you that later. Okay. And then you have to, of course, submit your application and pay all of your fees to both DICUS and D&D Digital on or before February 15th, which is the due date for 2022 for spring. Okay. This list is a link to several different videos or PDFs that can help guide you later, right? When you are going to come back to watch this video, or when you have access to the PowerPoint, you would be able to click these links and watch a short video about how to apply to internships or look at the DI checklist. So hopefully these are a few resources to help you as in the very beginning of when you're doing your research about applying to DICAS. So once you're enrolled, once you've created an account in DICAS and you are getting ready to start entering some information, if you're a Cal Poly student, so this is only for Cal Poly students, the DPD classes are the ones that you're going to be able to find on your DPD course list. Okay, I'm working on getting this available on our DPD website. For students who are currently enrolled, these are available on the Dietetics Canvas page. But if you are a graduate and you don't have access yet and you want your DPD course list, you can also email the DPD email address, which is dpd@cpp.edu. For the transcripts, which I'll show you in a moment, you want to make sure that there's a paper, that you need to download and include it in your requests for transcripts from every school. So I hope you're not logged in right now trying to order those during our chat now, unless you've already done this step. Okay. For your verification statement or declaration of intent, we would like for you to send that email to that same DPD email, dpd@cpp.edu. And then we're going to talk a little more actually about letters of recommendation and supplemental materials. Okay, so we'll go through each of these. So the major timeline, okay, DICUS is technically it's open now, but it fully opens on December 1st. Okay. If any of you are applying to internships that have a pre-select option, like I think Sodexo and Morrison have this in the spring, you might have to turn your application in earlier. So the application deadline for pre-select is usually the 1st of February. And then the full deadline for every single person to be done is February 15th. You also, at the same time that you applied for your DICAS, you want to apply for a D&D digital account. So the D&D digital account is $55. You'll pay that before your, full, you have to make sure to pay this before that, February 15th deadline. You also have to enter your D&D digital information into DICAS. So you'll have to do this before you finish your DICAS application. And we'll talk about the cost for DICAS before the end of this time here. All right. We know the application closes February 15th. So between February 15th and early March, the program directors will be looking over everyone's applications and selecting students to do interviews. So if your internship does conduct interviews, usually early-ish in March, around the end of the first week or second week of March, you'll start to get notified as a request for an interview. So this could be by email or a phone call. So it's a weird time where normally you screen all your phone calls, but maybe you want to answer your phone calls at that time. Check your voicemail regularly. And then you'll be doing your interviews sometime in the month of March. And then between March 21st and March 28th, you can actually go into D&D Digital and you can re-rank your internship choices. So when you apply through DICAS, you will apply to potentially several internships. The D&D Digital website connects essentially with your application, and you will be ranking your internship choices. So let's say you apply to 3 internships, you'll rank them 1, 2, 3 before you submit it in February. In March, that D&D Digital reopens and you can re-rank your choices. So let's say you applied to 3 internships and in your 3rd choice, you actually did really well in the interview, you meshed well with all of the preceptors, and you decided that it's a better fit for you. You can change it to rank number 1 if you want at that time. But you can't add any new programs. You can only re-rank the programs you applied to that you submitted in February. Okay. Then that closes, and you're able to, on February 3rd, will be notification day. So starting at 6 p.m. on February 3rd, 6 p.m. Central Time, you'll be able to log in and you'll just get an answer that says match or no match. And it'll say match and it'll tell you what internship you matched, or it'll say no match. Okay. You only ever match to 1. So, you know, even though you applied to several internships, you can only match to 1. The next day is appointment day. On that day, it is your responsibility as a matched intern to contact your program and tell them that you are in fact going to attend their internship. If you don't contact them, they are under no obligation to save your spot, and they may open your spot for a 2nd round match the next day. So you need to, in the time zone of the internship program. So if you're going to NYU before 6 p.m. in New York, which is 3 p.m. in California, you need to notify them that you're going to go there. I just do it early is what I would say. Okay. And so you're going to confirm the acceptance of that match that day. Okay. On the 5th, since all of the internship directors will have heard from all of the interns who are accepting their spots, they know they might know they have a spot left. So they're actually going to have a list of interns who didn't match, and they might contact you. So if you got that no match, you still might get a call on the 5th from an internship that says, I don't know why we didn't match you. Something weird happened with the ranking, and we would actually really like you. Would you like to come to our internship? So you might get a call that day. So just because you get a no match on the 4th, it's not over. It's just the beginning. Maybe it's the middle. Okay. Then the 6th, a list pops up that shows you every single program that has open spots across the nation. This is called 2nd round matching. And this is also when you can start applying to ISB programs. So again, even if you don't get a call on the 5th, on the 6th, you get to see a list of all of the programs with open spots. And then you do a little bit of research about those programs. If you want to apply to any of those, you look at their website for their matching guidelines for 2nd round. You contact them directly, and you want to see, you know, what the 2nd round matching options are. And I can tell you from experience, many students who are very down on match day because they get a non-match, match 2nd round. We had, I mean, close to 10 students last spring who matched 2nd round. And today, 6 months later, they're not that worried that they didn't match 1st round. They're halfway through their internship, right? So, you know, not to worry. It can be really frustrating and disappointing to get a no match on that 1st day, but it's absolutely not the end. Okay. When you get this, you'll see the link to the matching calendar, and it gives you all of the dates with very detailed information about what your responsibilities are on each date. So this is a great resource. Some students will have a lot of questions about D&D digital. Okay. I do want to take a moment. So again, even if you get a no match, just remember that you can still contact programs with open spots. You still have a chance. Okay. The matching process is a little bit strange. So D&D Digital has your list. I've ranked my programs 1, 2, 3, 4, however many you apply to. After interviews, if they conduct them, internships also basically prioritize their list of preferred interns. And, again, they may have hundreds of applicants, but maybe they only interview 30. So they basically rank those interns like 1 to 30. And what D&D Digital does is it has this algorithm that matches the students who ranked internships really high with the internships that also ranked that student very high. So if Cal Poly ranked you number 1, but you ranked them number 2 and you had Sodexo as number 1, then you might not match Cal Poly unless you're not ranked on Sodexo's list, and then you might match Cal Poly. So matching is a little bit of a mystery. And there will be students who are very good candidates who don't match because of issues with the ranking. So again, students who are really good candidates end up getting internships. They might be second round, they might be ISB internships, but ranking can sometimes cause people a lot of stress. And I don't know what Dr. S will say. I think Dr. Isom also logged in, but my philosophy is you should be ranking your internships based on your preference and also how well you fit the internship, especially after you do your interview. So if you do phenomenally well at an interview, or you really think you did not do at all well on an interview, maybe you consider that when you have the opportunity to re-rank. Did you have any other advice about that, Dr. S?
I would say that whenever you're making your list for where you want to go, just certainly make your mind and see the feasibility. And as Dr. Kairos said, that your interview is very crucial. So you see that you have top interest, but maybe your interview didn't go well. You're not going to rank on the top on the internship. Then certainly you need to be diligently ranking based on the performance in the interview and also your preference. But certainly the interview performance will matter in the match because they take into consideration the internship interest in you also. Would you agree, Dr. Karasic and Dr. Isom?
Yeah, I definitely do. Sorry to put you on the spot, Dr. Isom. So if she has a something, she can either chat it or talk. But so we have put a lot out there. I wanted to make a quick list of things you might do to improve your internship application. So some of these things, if you're applying in February, that comes up very quickly. And so maybe you don't have time to get a clinical job to work at for 6 months. Okay, that's okay. But you still have an opportunity to potentially volunteer between now and then to have some extra things to add to your application or your resume, right? And then if you are going to take a break, if you know you're not, maybe you're graduating this semester, or in the spring, but you think you're going to go ahead and wait to apply until fall or later, then think about work experience, volunteer options. You can also think about taking the DTR exam or other types of certifications, taking the CDM or being a personal trainer, trying to work as a health educator in a school. So things that maybe don't require the RD degree, but that your chances of getting that position or that volunteer position will be benefited by the fact that you have a nutrition background. Okay. Some things that you actually can do between now and then: apply for scholarships and awards. If there's an opportunity to apply for a scholarship and award, even if you don't win it, then you can put on your application that you applied for it or that you were qualified. And then you might win, right? And so that'll be something that you can add. And then any kind of certifications. If you don't have your CertSafe, you could get that. You could put your CPR certification on there if you don't have that yet. Just anything to kind of bolster your application. Something that all of you can do, regardless of when you're applying, is to have a really good personal statement, right? This is something that's about you. I have linked 2 resources here about adding a personal statement, about how to make it, better. Last night at the DEI workshop, something really great came up, and it was the balance between the personal part of the personal statement. So when we're reading applications, want to learn about you, really want to learn about you as an individual. So, I hate to say this because it's so true, but if your main selling point for your personal statement is that you came into the profession because you wanted to help people, that's why a lot of us come into the profession. And so that might be something that's being read over and over again in personal statements. So what can you add that's unique about why you want to help people or what you want them to accomplish? The kind of people you want to help, something that motivated you to get to that point so that that the personal part is there, right? Because we know you're going to help people, because you would never write in your personal statement, I'm just doing this for the money, I just need a job, right? So how can you make it personal without also sharing something that's so personal that the reader may have a bias toward it? So you just really need to be careful about what you're sharing, how you're sharing it. We have negative experiences in our lives that influence our decision process. And it's okay that that's true. And you can share those things. But how do you talk about the positive that came out of it, right? How do we make sure that you're presenting this experience that may have been quite negative in a positive way so that it leaves the reader inspired by your story? Because these are human people reading these personal statements. And unfortunately, we're not free of kind of some bias as we're reading. And so just think about, how do I make this, how do I talk about this negative thing that happened and how I turned around and made it positive? I also think if you have kind of something you think that's a blemish in your record, like low grades or something like that, don't avoid it, because they'll see it. So if you have the opportunity to talk about it and how you learned from it and how you're growing from it, then it's a good opportunity to say, I know you're going to see this semester where I did really bad, and not to make an excuse about what happened, but talk about how you grew from that experience. Because again, they're not going to miss it. They'll see it, right? Because they're trained to look for those things. Okay. I added this for the Cal Poly students. If you're graduating in December, or if you think you might wait to apply to internships till after spring, or if you get a no match and you decide to wait to apply again, this is the process for doing the DTR application. So you'll go ahead and contact me for that.
And Dr. Kaishich,
Yes.
can you go back to the DTR? I want to point out here, because a DTR really put you, so just in case that you're not applying for the internship, or just in case you didn't match, DTR is a really good route, because many big companies like Genesis Healthcare, Life Care Centers of America, they are recruiting a dietary manager with DTR over CDMs. That's what I noticed, because I worked for those companies. So just in case you have some time to apply for the internship, you can go ahead and take the DTR exam. You already have bachelor's degree. You can apply for those jobs, because DTR are preferred as a food service managers. And then later, if you get this, the food service management experience, that greatly strengthen your application to become the dietitian. And once you have the DTR, worked for the food service manager, now you got your dietitian, then it's very, very likely that you can turn into food and nutrition director. So it's like a fast-paced growth, just in case that food service management and with clinical is your area, but just want to put this in your minds that there's no reason to be discouraged not to being met. Like if you didn't match, there are paths which can really strengthen you and make you better dietitians later on.
Absolutely. And one of the kinds of internships I didn't mention because it's so specific is the WIC internship. And that internship, you have to work there before you can apply. So we have Central Valley WIC, we have Northeast Valley, San Diego, and then locally here we have the PHFE WIC. And each one has different requirements between 6 months and a year working there as a decreed nutritionist. And then you can apply for their internship. You work part-time while you're doing your internship. So it's a unique pathway in terms of being able to continue to work while you're doing your internship hours. But of course you have to work there, and we're having that master's degree requirement coming. But recognize that you could still be looking at options doing a master's degree part-time during that time. And so you could still be working and meeting your long-term goals if that was a good option for you. And so those are internships to consider looking at as well. And then the last thing I have about improving your internship application is, demonstrating leadership. So if you're a student, you may participate in student organizations, but if you haven't been, or if you're graduating and you weren't very active, we have a lot of other organizations of which you can be a part. We have Los Angeles region, Inland District, and Orange District that are all local here. There's volunteer opportunities to be on the board, to help out with meetings, just to be an active member. And so, these are options to consider as well. Elections for board membership will come up probably around April. And so you could keep your eye out for that, whether you match or not. I do have students on the board at Orange District this semester or this year who are interns right now. So just because you're going to be an intern doesn't mean you can't be on the board. There are some positions that don't require a ton of time, and then it, bolsters your applications elsewhere. So for the next few slides, I'm going to actually show you some snapshots of the DICUS application and provide some really important specific information. Okay. So if you've never logged in before, this is what the login page for DICAS looks like. And I think it can be intimidating, right? When you first look at it, you're like, what are all these orange and blue squares? What is all this red and green? It looks like Christmas over here. I get it, okay? But really what you do is you just start clicking on these items in the middle here and start filling out the information. This information here is really straightforward. I can't help you pick that. I can't help you with that. I don't know your contact information, your background information. But where this talk really comes in, and where your DPD director can help you a lot, is going to be the educational information section, maybe helping with your personal statement. Okay. What you can see on the right-hand side between this red and green, you want these all to be starting to turn green. And once they're all green, then you know that you're finished with your application. So you want to look down and see all of these options. See the orange box means it's complete here. And over here, it's complete when it turns green. So it's really visual in terms of showing you how, well you're doing in terms of completing all the requirements. Okay. This is what D&D Digital looks like. Okay. D&D Digital, you'll go to their website and you'll register online. Okay. Before you submit your application, you're going to need to pay the fee. And once you do, you'll get a digital ID. That digital ID has to be entered into your DICAS application. So you have to do this at least right before you turn in your application through DICAS. Okay. So that's what these two look like. And this D&D Digital page, this is where you are going to be re-ranking your programs and where you're going to log in to find out if you matched or not. One of the questions is about your DPD course list. This is your DPD course list. You're not uploading any of the documents that you used as an undergraduate for part of your advising. Okay, it's not your flow chart, it's not your curriculum sheet, it's this really specific form. Okay, and for students who graduated last year or before, it's going to have someone's name on it. That's not my name under the DPD director. That's fine. That's who the DPD director was at that time. If you're graduating this year, this form will have my name on it. And this will have a list of all your DPD professional courses and all your DPD science courses. And it's really important because you have to use those designations when you're entering your information into DICAS. So not only do you have to order your transcripts and have them sent to DICAS, you have to physically enter all of your DPD classes into that system. You have to enter every grade. You have to enter whether or not you repeated the course. And you have to enter whether it's a DPD course, professional, or a science. And you only add these types of classes. So it's a lot of work and it takes time. So if you're applying in spring and you haven't made an account yet, this will be something you really want to prioritize while you're on your break. So this list, again, it's available on the dietetics Canvas page if you're a current student. If you're a former student, I'm trying to get them on the website, or you can email me at dpd@cpp.edu. And if you're a non-CPP student, you're going to want to contact your DPD director for this. Okay. So when you're entering your colleges, you must list a DPD college. So I suggest you might want to start with your DPD college, which may be Cal Poly or maybe somewhere else, but you'll start with your DPD college. This has Cal State Long Beach on it because this was an old version of the application I was looking at, but you'll enter the college's name, what kind of degree you were getting. You want to check the actual name of your degree, okay? And then you're going to also enter every other school that you had done DPD classes. So if you did one class at Mount Sac and one class at Chaffey and 3 classes at Cerritos, you got to ask for a transcript for all of those schools. Even though you transferred those grades to Cal Poly, you still have to enter each one of those schools separately and get a transcript for each one. Okay, so think about that in terms of expense. You might get 1 or 2 versions for free. You may have to pay $5 or $6 or $10. So consider those when you're making your plans. You also want to see if you have degree or awarded or degree planned. So you can look at your unofficial transcript if you want to see what the actual title of your degree is. You want those to match. Okay. This is a really key part of the application. Once you start entering your colleges, so this might be Cal Poly Pomona, College of Sequoias, San Diego Canyon, whatever the colleges are that you went to, see this little orange icon that kind of looks like a printer, or if you're hungry, a hamburger. You want to click that and a paper comes up that looks like this. Okay, it'll say your name, it'll have your DICAS ID, and it'll say what school it's for. This needs to go in your request for transcripts, and there's going to be one for each school. So your Cal Poly one will say Cal Poly, your San Diego Canyon will say San Diego Canyon, and you can download this as a PDF. And if you can request electronic transcripts, there will be an option for you to add this. And if there's not an option, you need to contact the registrar and ask them, how do I get this paper? How do I get this paper added to my transcript? Because what happens is this comes with a barcode, and when DICAS gets it, they scan it and it goes directly into your application, right? So you really want to, this has to be sent directly to DICAS. It's not sent to your house and then you mail it to them. It needs to be sent directly to them. If you have to order a paper transcript, you want to do that early, okay? They get really bad weather on the East Coast, and this is on the East Coast. And I had a year where students had requested their transcripts late and they never arrived because they weren't literally not able to deliver them because of a snowstorm. So you really want to get on early, getting these early. And for Cal Poly, if you're a current student and you're finishing up a semester, when you request it, you can check a box that says wait for this term's grades. And as soon as those post, then they'll assess your transcript request. Okay, so really important step, the printer icon. Okay. And then you'll go through and you'll enter all of your classes. You're going to enter the course as it looks on the transcript from the school it came from. Okay, so for Cal Poly students, you can look in your transfer credit report and you can find out which classes transferred for which Cal Poly class. And again, you'll have an option here to select whether or not you repeated the class. And so you'll have to enter several grades if you repeated a class. This is also where you have to know whether or not it's a DPD science or a DPD professional course. So you'll reference your DPD course list here. If your application requires test scores like the TOEFL or the GRE, I don't believe that schools are requiring them this year because of COVID, but you want to double check, just make sure, okay? But if you have your scores and they're good, you can just say that you took it. You're going to enter when you took it and what your scores were, but you actually don't send your test scores to DICUS, okay? You, if they're required, would send those directly to the school, or you'd want to double check what they want from you, but you don't send them to DICUS, okay? Unlike the transcripts. For Cal Poly students, when you're trying to figure out whether you need a declaration of intent or a verification statement, if you will have graduated, you have your degree is posted, you have a bachelor's degree, on the day you submit your application on February 15th, you need a verification statement. If you're graduating in May though afterwards, then you will request a declaration of intent. So if you are a graduate the day this application is due, you get a verification statement. If you have not yet graduated, you're requesting a declaration of intent. You will add my name as the DPD director, and you will put the DPD email address, okay, dpd@cpp.edu. Okay, a little tip about personal statements. We talked a little bit about this already. So DICAS has questions you have to answer. Okay. Your program though may have additional questions that you need to answer. So you need to reconcile what is DICAS asking you for and what in addition to that is my program wanting to hear from me. Usually these statements are around 1,000 words, but sometimes they're less. So really check your program requirements and make sure you know. Write this early. It's difficult to write about yourself and to sell yourself. So write it early, get a good rough draft going so that you have something to work from. In the workshop last night, someone said, start at 6 months early. So if you're applying in February and you haven't started yet, don't freak out, just do it. Get something down, start with bullet points if you have to, but get something on paper. You want to highlight your best assets based on the questions they ask, take opportunities to remind them of your great qualities and experience. Remind them of things that are unique about you, of course, within this word requirements. And please proofread it and have other people read it. Have another student read it, take it to the Career Center, have a trusted peer or mentor read it. You want to have other people read it and just help you maybe identify things that you could maybe tweak, okay? You don't want to turn this in without having someone else read it. Okay? It's a good idea. You're going to upload your resume, proofread your resume. I know a student who had a curse word in their resume because it's a real word, so it wasn't picked up by spell check. So please reread, double check your resume, send it to the Career Center, have a peer, have a friend, have a mentor read it, okay? And tailor it to the DI. Don't just upload any old resume like you're applying to a job. You want to, tailor your resume, highlight your education and your skills related to dietetics and the DI. For references, okay, look at what your DI wants. The dietetic internship might ask you for an RD. They might ask you for 2 teachers or professors. They might have really specific ideas about who they'd like to write these letters for you. So you will need 3 to 4 letters of recommendation, usually 3 for programs, but you might have to ask 4 or 5 different people for letters because the different programs need to see from different people. You want to give the people who are writing your letter a minimum of 3 to 4 weeks. I would say 6 weeks. I would say you want to start requesting letters of recommendation really soon. That way, you're going to email or call someone or go to their office hours. You're going to ask them to write a letter and they're going to tell you yes or no. And then once they say yes, then you can enter their information into your application. Okay. And they will get an email requesting this letter. Whether you're applying, whether you're asking people within the department or a job reference, you want to give them things, give them information about you. They're going to have to really make you look good. You want to ask people who know you well and who can speak to your, strengths and your aspirations and your good qualities. And so they do have to, provide some evidence, or they'll be asked about certain dietetics knowledge. And if you're not sure that this person has that knowledge, you want to consider, do I really want to ask that person? Are they the right person? Or how can I provide that information to this person? So you might say, thank you for agreeing to write a letter of recommendation for me. Here's my resume. Here's a version of my personal statement. Here are my strengths and weaknesses. This is how I know you. If they're your teacher, what classes did you take with them and what grades did you get? So that they have a lot of information to pull from as they're writing this letter, because you really want it to be unique. You don't want it to be a generic letter. You want it to really, to reflect the great qualities that you have and your success as an intern. Okay. So choose someone who knows you well and who's going to speak well about your qualifications, someone who is going to know how well you work under stress, or you can talk to them about that. They have an option to add your strengths or weaknesses. So provide them information about, your strengths and things that you're working on, always presented in a positive way. Okay? You want to ask someone who knows these things. And if you're not quite sure, provide them that information. Right? Provide them all the information they can. So when they sit down to write your letter, they're going to go, oh, look, I have Sangeeta's resume and I have her personal statement. And oh, look at all these great things. I can add this in my letter. It takes the guesswork out. Okay. One of the last things you're probably going to do is program designations. So this is where you're going to actually enter in the internships that you'd like to apply to. You want to know that there's a fee associated with it and that fee is non-refundable. Okay. So after you designate programs, if they require supplemental materials, that's when you can add those. So some students will want to try to add supplemental materials, but they haven't designated programs yet, and you can't. Okay. So after you designate programs, that's when you have that option to upload those supplemental materials. Okay, I did talk about fees. Okay, for DICAS, the application fee is $50 for one program and $25 for each additional program. So if you apply to 4 programs, that's $125 plus $55 for D&D Digital, plus the cost of your transcripts. So these are this isn't to discourage you. This is just so that you can recognize and budget that you're going to need to have this money available as you're making these decisions. And also it's probably why you don't want to apply to 10 programs, because that would be very expensive. And it would also be exceedingly difficult to rank that many or to have that many interviews over a 2-week period while you're maybe still in school. So I don't know that there's a sweet spot about exactly how many internships you should apply to, but a lot of students apply to 2 or 3. Okay. I don't know what Dr. S's experience was. I applied to 3 and that was manageable for me.
3 is good. Like 3, I think 3 sounds reasonable. And if you like, really, I won't go more than 4.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And so it might be that you have a program that's your favorite, or 2 that you really love, that like if you got in, it would be your dream. And then 1 that's a backup. That would be a really good program to go to if it were if that was an option for you. Maybe your third option is a distance internship if that wasn't the ideal thing for you. That's a highly personal choice. So All right. That is all I have specifically about the overview of the application process today. I am happy to answer questions. We have until 2:30 today. The next two slides after this are some of the resources, just links to a DICUS overview, resources from Ascend, and actually we may be adding some more resources about DEI. Maybe Dr. S can speak to that. And then the last four slides are some specific information about the Cal Poly internship that we got from Rachel Flores, if you're interested specifically in learning more about that internship, but those aren't officially part of this workshop today. So I'd love to open it up to anyone who has any questions that we can answer.
I have a question. So about the ranking, I was told that, like, say you did apply to something outrageous, like 10 programs, you don't necessarily rank them at that time. You only rank them like if you get accepted to, or not accepted, but like interviews or something like that. I was kind of told not to worry about the ranking process until you get like reached out to by those programs.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, Karina, is that so no matter how many programs you apply to, let's say that if all of them, let's say you applied to 10 and all of them require an interview, you're going to rank them. You have to rank them. You have to rank them before you submit your application. But because you have an opportunity to re-rank them, that ranking that you do initially doesn't matter that much. So you don't really need to stress about it until March. But let's say you only get interviews at 5 of the places, but all 10 require an interview. Well, the 5 that didn't interview you, you can pretty much bet you're not going to get because you didn't get an interview. So then you'd really just rank those 5 that you did interview with. So does that make sense, Karina? I think that might be what makes sense with what you were told. What do you think?
Yes, I was confused about the whole ranking process. I thought, thank you. I was told that like you have to rank like as soon as you apply to like an internship. That's why you're not supposed to apply to a lot of them. But then someone said something different. So yeah, it makes more sense. Thank you.
Yeah, so you do rank them, but you have the opportunity to re-rank them, and it's that second rank that matters.
Yeah,
the one that you do in March.
So you certainly want to, because maybe your interview will also come if you rank first, then the internship is more interested to interview you based on your ranking, correct? So I think it's a good idea to rank, but certainly the final ranking is after your interview. So based on how you performed or you get interviewed, there's no point of ranking you didn't get interviewed because that's not going to happen. And if you think one of my interview just was not really, just was really bad, then you don't want to rank that on the top. So final ranking after the interview process.
Thank you.
In the chat, I put a link to a Google form. And so if you are not a Cal Poly student, or if you've graduated already and you wanted me to give you, if you wanted access to this presentation, at least the PowerPoint, and you're not able to then do that through our Canvas page, you could use this Google form to give me your email address, and I'd be able to send that to you. Alternatively, you could email at the DPD email address, and we can get you a version of the handouts as well. Who else has questions about the process or anything that you're confused about? Maybe something I didn't cover. We're happy to answer questions.
I have a question. Do you guys know, so like the Career Center was able to like help us with our resume. Is there anybody at the Career Center that could help with like applying to the internship? Like just kind of like how they did with us for our resumes, like an overview with like suggestions kind of thing?
The Career Center, are going to be great at reading things like your resume and your personal statement and helping you identify with that extra set of eyes any kind of errors or things that maybe could be altered. But there's no one in the Career Center and most likely no one outside of the Food and Nutrition Science Department who is going to be an expert on this application, because the only people who've really gone through this process are going to be someone who is an RD. And so you might want to find like a trusted mentor, an RD in the field, or someone that might be able to like look things over for you. But just in terms of the application itself, entering the information is quite self-explanatory. The parts that are really variable and personal are going to be your resume and your personal statement, and possibly supplemental materials. Last night, the group for the LA region brought up the idea of making online portfolios. And these were kind of popular for a while and then they lost popularity, but there are some internships requesting them again. And essentially what it is making a website about yourself. And so although it's not required for all internships, it is required for some. But if you have the time to do it, which you have a lot going on already, but there's programs like Wix, that's Wix, or Weebly. And you can make free websites that are pretty self-explanatory. And you basically put some of your information on there, kind of like an online resume. You can put your website address in like the header of your resume if you wanted to. And it provides a little extra information if one of these people logs into it, and you have pictures of you volunteering or samples of your projects. It's just like a little extra little umph if you have time to do that, and that's an option as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, but I know Sodexo requires it, but
Yes,
not
Sodexo
every not every internship.
I had a question about entering the DPD courses. So let's see here. So I declared my major in nutrition back in 2019 in the spring. And so when you were talking about entering our courses from our DPD courses, so for me personally, would I enter those courses based off of the 2019 catalog year?
Yeah, that's a really great question. You will be entering classes based on the year that you declared or whatever your catalog year is. So most of us will have the same catalog year as the year we declared the major. If any of you started in the quarter system though, and you elected to change your catalog year to a more current year, it'll be that year. So for Cal Poly students specifically, if you log into your Bronco Direct and you look at your degree planner, it's going to be listed in the top when it says you declared your degree, it's going to be listed there. Or if you're unsure, if you look at your unofficial transcript, it'll be the first semester where it says you have dietetics options. So maybe you came in and you were a nutrition science and then you changed to dietetics. That semester you changed to dietetics, that's the year you would use as your DPD course list.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, because I came in as an undeclared, in 2018, and I didn't make the change until spring 2019.
Yeah, so you'll be
Okay.
a fall 18, spring 19. So you'll be the 18-19 DPD course list.
Oh, it'll be 18-19. Oh, okay.
Yeah, because it goes by the school year because we don't change the requirements in the middle of the year.
Oh, okay. Thank you. That makes sense because I was going to choose 2019, 2020.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, they're probably the same, if not, they're super similar, if not exactly the same, but because we went through semester conversion, there could be, some changes. Most of the changes are older. But if you encounter something that you feel really unsure about, email me at dpd@cpp.edu.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions that students have, graduates? Anyone else? Something you heard that you're not sure about? Did you have a question, Melanie? You're also welcome to use the chat.
Yes, absolutely.
Professor Kirsich, I do have a question. So when it comes to asking letters of recommendation, this semester was a real struggle for me in terms of keeping up with my coursework and, other things that I have outside of school. So I feel like now asking for a letter of recommendation may seem like they might not have anything good to say if they see that my grades were not the best. So, like, what do you recommend?
That's a great question. I mean, if you can go to office hours to ask, I think that's a great idea because then you can talk to them about what's going on if you feel comfortable sharing, but also choose someone who really knows you, right? Not someone who's going to go, oh, they just didn't do well that one semester. And so that's all I'm going to talk about. Right. So I think that you probably have made some relationships with some individuals on campus within the department who would be able to say, to speak about much more about who you are than just that one semester of work. And also provide them with that stuff. You can say, I had you in these several classes. I got these great grades in these other classes, and look at all this other great stuff I'm doing. I'm in this program, I'm in leadership. So, if they agree, then you provide them all that information so they don't have to cheerlead for you, that you do it for yourself and they just repeat it.
Okay, yeah, that helps. Thank you.
You're welcome. We're all human. And so all of us have gone through some challenging things. And I think you wouldn't probably ask someone who's going to make a judgment based on just one semester, right? That's not the right choice for who to ask.
Yeah, I don't think that any one professor will make choice based on your circumstances in one semester. So please, Claudia, don't be alarmed of that you had busy semester and then no, that's not the case. Be assured, right?
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and then Melanie is asking Emily's, her internet is not working, but is there any study guide available for the DTR exam?
That's a great question, Melanie. So when someone contacts me to apply for the DTR exam, I actually send you some links to possible study materials when you're going to apply. But the Academy will send you those things too. But yes, on the CDR website, there's a list of options. If you are planning on, I don't want to lead people astray, but if you're planning on doing the RD in the next year or two, you could potentially purchase RD exam study materials just because everything on the DTR exam is also on the RD exam. But yes, there are study materials available. If you go to cdrnet.org, this is who's responsible for tracking our registration. And so here, when you look under RD and DTR credentials, you'll be able to find information about the credential, exam information, pass-fail rates, things like that, and study materials. I don't know that they're for free, but it's just kind of like study materials for other standardized exams.
I would say that go to the Academy site and they might have, and search the DTR, they might have, but certainly there would be some paid guide, but you never know, there might be some. So good a place to begin with is to explore DTR on the Academy website.
Great question.
Yes.
I really want to emphasize that if you're applying this semester or in the spring cycle or anytime you're applying, first round is just that. Okay, it's just the first opportunity for a match, and there are many other opportunities to still get into an internship. So contact me, contact Dr. S, contact your other mentors in the department if you're feeling sad about it. Be sad if you need to be sad that first day because it's disappointing. And then regroup. That list is going to come available and there will be a lot of options for second round matches. So it's a good opportunity to just regroup and reapply. The process goes really fast in that second part. You might apply and be asked for an interview just a few days later. You might get contacted back the same day. So the second round goes a lot faster. It's a little bit less formal than first round matching. So just know that as disappointing as it can be to not match in that first round, it actually doesn't necessarily reflect the quality, like your quality as a candidate. Sometimes something weird happens with the matching, and it's just the beginning. There will be more opportunities to get an internship. And again, the ISB internships, there's several local and they're great programs.
An internship match is not super high. And the reason for that is not the candidate or the competency of candidates. It's about that it's not having the internship site. So many times if it's not happening, that's the topmost reason. So please don't be alarmed if you didn't get match in the first. I always say, and if you were in my classes, that you can do a lot with your nutrition degree. So please don't be discouraged. And as Dr. Kairos says, reach out to us, go volunteer for the professionals, write up your blog, create a recipe or whatever, rock your social media. And it's just so much you can do and build your network. Networks are powerful.
And if you're interested in an internship, but you feel kind of unsure about something, you want to ask questions, it's a great idea to contact internship directors directly, as long as the questions you ask aren't answered on the website. So make sure you're really looking at their website, because they don't want to hear a question like, what's the tuition, when all you had to do was click on the website. Okay. But if you have other questions, if you'd like to talk to a former or a current intern, they might be able to do that for you so that you can ask someone questions who has experience. I have connected my former students at Cal Poly to current students who had questions about specific internships if I knew that, someone had done an internship. So that's an option as well. So if you're feeling on the fence about one of your choices or feeling unsure about something, reach out and we may be able to put you into contact with someone who can answer your questions. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Mincy writes, or go to their open house. Absolutely. There's open houses coming up. I think someone mentioned that LAVA is having one in January. So definitely do this research on these internships and see if there are open houses in the next couple months. And that's a great way to get a little extra information.
Mm-hmm. So like you got the nutrition degree, the WIC is one place where you can start as a degreed nutritionist. Many hospitals like Hoag really recruit nutrition assistant and like higher scale. So you got things to do. So just keep, make your alternate plan. It's kind of like that. And I think everybody will be fine. Match, enjoy, not match, get even better inspired, and go back again, right? So I believe you guys are all awesome, and just believe in yourself and do your best. Be your best and be unique.
So Melanie, if you're graduating in fall of 2022, you can apply in fall of 2022. You're going to want to go to the Academy website that has the list of accredited programs and find ones that have fall match dates. There aren't as many, but there are some distance ones and there are some food service ones. And I happen to know your history a little bit. And so it could be a good fit for you to have a food service internship. And there are quite a few. When I say food service, I mean food service companies like Sodexo and Morrison will have fall matching dates, but you would want to do a fall matching date if you want, and that's your first opportunity to match.
Yes.
Yeah. And then a note, I want to add a note about both your letters of recommendation and your interviews. Okay. When someone agrees to write a letter for you, you're going to add their information in DICAS. They're going to get an email that tells them that you've requested a letter. I would say about 2 weeks before the applications due, if you haven't gotten your letters yet, you want to send really kindly worded emails about how thankful you are that they've agreed to write a letter for you, and do they need anything from you before they submit their letter, which is due soon. Okay, so very friendly nudges about that. And then once they write it, write them a thank you, right? Whether it's an email or a handwritten note. And when you do your interview, you also want to send a thank you for the interview as well, right? Whether it went bad or whether it went good, follow up with an email or that says, thank you for the interview. I really enjoyed it. I look forward to hearing on match day. You don't say, I know I'm going to match you, but you just say, I'm really looking forward to match day. But those can really go a long way because they haven't re-ranked yet. And if you send a thank you letter, they're going to remember you.
You can change their mind if they are still confused about few candidates, right?
That's right. You can request transcripts anytime, Eddie. I would start requesting them right away. If they're not going to be electronic. So if you go to look at your schools and you happen to realize that someone needs that they're going to do it on paper, request those as soon as possible. Okay, Cal Poly does do electronic ones. And if you are going to request a letter from Cal Poly, not a letter, a transcript, ask for them to wait for this term's grades to post. But you can start requesting them right away if you're applying in spring, because we think of spring sometimes as being late, but actually it's in February. It's going to come up really quick. So if you wait until the semester starts, it's only like 3 weeks until the application is due. So you want to get on that now, get it off your plate, right? If you don't do it now, do it as soon as you're done with finals. Okay, get it done early.
Yes, yes.
But remember, you get that paper that has the icon, right? The printer icon from the DICAS website from your application.
Mm-hmm.
I can see people logging off. We're really honing in on our last few minutes here. If you wanted me to, if you, again, especially if you're not a Cal Poly student, if you wanted me to send this to you, you can either email me at dpd@cpp.edu, or if you follow, this Google form, you could add your email address in here and I could send it to you either way.
We see some non-Cal Poly students here.
Yeah, I certainly see names that I don't recognize, so I don't like to assume in case they were maybe graduates of a previous year that I wasn't here.
Neha, Priyanka, do you have any specific questions?
Hi, hi, this is Priyanka. Hi, actually, I just joined very late, so probably I just missed the major part, but I'm going to look at it and probably if I have questions, I'll email you. I'll definitely do have some questions. Yeah.
I think it's a good idea to fill out the Google form and request the slides because slides are itself very self-explanatory and that they will be a very good guide.
And yes, then remember your DPD director is a great resource for information.
Great resource, yeah. Your own DPD director is going to be a great resource.
Okay, yeah, thanks.
Everyone who's saying thank you in the chat, you are very welcome. It's my pleasure. I just hope that if I gave you one tip that's going to help you or encourage you, then that makes me feel like it was absolutely worth my time. And of course, please contact us. And Dr. S and I can both answer emails from the DPD email, or at least eventually we will be able to. But if you emailed one of us at our personal email addresses,
Should be fine.
we can answer that as well. So if you forget, but we're here to help support you as you're going towards your application process.
Absolutely, absolutely. I know it might feel like intimidating, like it really seems complicated, but please, with calm mind, go and start early, and then you will be fine. Start early, that's key, because it's a lot, right? It's a lot to
Yeah.
enter on DICOS.
Right. Even if you don't feel like you have a lot of time to fill out information now, but today you feel inspired to just make an account, then make an account. You'll have one thing done off your list. You'll have made the account. And then, when you're binging Netflix, you can start entering other information that you're not going to get wrong, like your contact information and things like that.
And this is what I will do. I'll just start adding little by little, right? And that sometimes start looking a lot. So